Welcome to Surrogacy Daddy, the podcast about a queer and ethically driven surrogacy journey. Episode 11, The Birth. I think it is safe to say we were ready for your birth. As ready as one can be, which means not ready at all. Family and friends gave us lots of clothes that we couldn't wait to see come to life with you wearing them. A very good friend told me how moving it was for her to part with these clothes and give them to us. You know, I'm not just giving you baby clothes. I'm passing on the echoes of unforgettable moments, slices of life, some of the most beautiful moments of my existence. And one day, it will be our turn to pass on these emotionally charged treasures. It's silly, but I don't think I'll ever look at children's clothes the same way again. We are also starting to think more seriously about your name. It is a monumental responsibility to assign a lifelong signifier to someone who you don't even know yet. These names can really only speak about us, the parents, about our tastes, our inspirations, our passions, our biases. All our life, we are called by a word that speaks not of us, but of our parents. That is strange. And I think it's perfectly normal and legitimate for some people to want to take ownership of their identity, right down to their first name, and ask to change it. Fortunately, or out of love, your other dad and I were very aligned on the fundamentals for your possible first names, and we're quite willing to compromise on the specific choice. That's a very precious thing in a couple. It makes decisions much easier, even beyond first names. Now, I say that as if being in love makes us better parents. I don't know about that. Separated parents or co-parenting friends can do just as well, I think. In fact, a friend recently made me realize that there is absolutely no place in our cultures and societies for considering that sometimes, if not often, it would be wiser to have children with someone other than the person you're in love with. Not every good partner makes a good parent, and yet, it's only with these people that we consider it, especially in heterosexual families. It is very limiting when you think about it. Maybe we should take some lessons from co-parenting families and bring the spirit of community back into the idea of family. Among other pre-birth preparation tips, a neonatal nurse friend advised us to cook lots of meals in advance and freeze them, so we wouldn't have to think about cooking when we got home. Great idea. Your other dad made vegetarian lasagna for 3 regiments. All this time, we kept in close contact with Diana, as always. At every ultrasound, we were there via video call. We couldn't wait to see you both and for the big day to arrive. We had a specific date for your birth. Apparently, in the US, they like to plan these things out. At least that's what Diana's obstetrician told us. For surrogacies, she prefers to schedule the birth a week before the calculated due date. The idea, she explained, is for the birth to take place with as few risks as possible for Diana without putting you at risk either. And asking you to come out a week early for size reasons is better. So ideally, we would have preferred for you to decide when to arrive. That would have been more respectful. But obviously, and fortunately, I suppose, it's the medical team that makes these decisions. So we knew your expected date of birth. Based on that, we decided to arrive 2 weeks beforehand, so we'd settled, rested, and be over our jet lag, and also to spend some time with Diana and her family. When we left for the airport for this second trip, it was nighttime. and I remember it for the rest of my life. Your other dad was walking a bit ahead of me. I could see him pushing that empty stroller. And just above him, appearing between two clouds, as if lifting a veil to watch the scene, an unusually bright moon lit our path. It was so beautiful that I took a photo that I'm keeping for you, and also to make sure later that I didn't dream up such a moving moment. I thought to myself, the next time we walk up this street, it will be with our child, the three of us, together. I felt like my brain was incapable of processing this information. It wasn't reacting, as if only my heart, my emotions could keep up and so joyfully anticipate what was coming. I smiled at the moon and thanked it for guiding us. Then I caught up with your other dad, trotting through that luminous night. Very soon after we arrived, we reunited with Diana and her family. And you, how much you'd grown! Diana's belly had stretched to make room for you. She carries you, nourishes you, and cherishes you with such pride. Diana's children, her husband, everyone was there for the reunion. In the days that followed, we asked Diana if she wanted to come see a drag show with us in the nearby big city. She loved the idea and gladly accepted the invitation. Once we got there, we settled in and the show began. And surprise, it turned out to be part of burlesque striptease, part drag show. We hadn't quite understood the announcement correctly. It was funny to think that just days before your arrival, we were there applauding the artists in this rather unexpected show. It had all the elements of that RuPaul quote I love, "We were born naked and the rest is drag." And you did react too. During the show, perhaps influenced by the music, you started moving around quite a bit, Diana told us. So much so that she began having small contractions. That's when we semi-panicked. Okay, being born on a queer nightlife stage would have been a pretty fun story to tell your friends later, but we still preferred everything to go as planned in a calm setting appropriate for Diana at the hospital. But everything was fine. Diana wasn't any more worried than usual. She'd already had 3 children, so we figured she knew how to recognize and interpret the signs. We enjoyed the rest of the show as she suggested. The next day, there was a checkup with the midwife. Well, cervix was dilated 4 centimeters, so you really wanted to watch that show the night before. From then on, we were on constant alert. We never went more than 2 hours drive away. We saw Diana almost every day, while being careful to give her space when she wanted and needed it. We also spent time with her family, making gingerbread and candy Christmas houses with her kids. We went out here and there several times. Also met your donor, Camille, for the second time. We'd already seen her during our summer visit. We returned to the absolutely delicious restaurant she had introduced us to a few months earlier. What a joy it was getting to know her better. She's just as sparkling in person as would imagine from her profile. Even more so, not only does she seem to lead 1,000 different lives at once, if you only knew all the projects she has going on right now, but she manages them all with such serenity and determination, with a real societal and political vision behind all her actions. Truly an inspiring woman. So that you two could meet, we planned to see each other again after the birth. And at that point, it felt very strange to say after the birth, because I didn't experience it as a time marker, but more like a geographical one, like after crossing into the other world. The night before your birth, before going to bed, I felt some anxiety rising. The next day was going to bring something we'd been talking about for 3 years, something that would change our lives, and about which I actually knew nothing. Childbirth and labor. Yes, we had gone over everyone's role the day before, where we'd be positioned, who would do what, and so on. We had that part figured out. We knew how to support Diana and help with your arrival. But the actual labor, the images, sounds, smells, sensations, what was that like? For me, it was a complete unknown. So I decided to watch a birth video online. Because unlike your other dad, I had never seen one in biology class. The video was 5 to 6 minutes long. I cried from the 20th second to the very end. It was so beautiful, so moving, so powerful. Okay, I thought, now I'm ready. Early in the morning, we met Diana at the hospital, where she had arrived a bit earlier to get settled. She had a large delivery room with an armchair and sofa. She had asked if her husband, mother, and godmother could be there, just as they had been when she gave birth to her own children. The answer was obvious, of course. So we spent the day together, Diana in the middle of us on her bed, chatting about everything and nothing, joking around, waiting for contractions to intensify. It was a wonderful family moment. We made sure Diana could ask us to leave so she could rest if she wanted, but she told us she wanted us there with her. Every hour, the medical team came in to check that everything was okay and that you were getting ready to join us. Then, late in the afternoon, the midwife told us, "All right, everyone, positions, the big moment is starting." The emotion was palpable. Everything was converging towards this instant. We were about to reach the mountain's peak and discover the vast landscape beyond. I hesitated a lot about whether to tell the story of your birth here in this podcast. This part of the story is obviously important, but it's also very intimate, and I don't know if you'd want me to share this in public. Diana said she was okay with it, and obviously your other dad is too, but I can't ask for your consent yet. Even for us, your parents, I think I'd rather keep this special moment somewhat private. And at the same time, I remember thinking before your birth that I would have liked to hear more testimonies about the precise moment of birth from a father's perspective. So I've made what I hope is a balanced choice. I'm keeping all the details, emotions, and intimate parts in your journal, the one I write with your other dad. And here I'm just going to explain how the sequence of events unfolded. I think this is the right approach to respect Diana's privacy, yours, and ours. So don't be surprised if what follows is brief and factual. In the delivery room, we were all positioned around Diana. She had given us very clear roles and we knew how to be helpful. Everything went according to plan, just as we'd hoped. I saw your little head emerge and the midwife caught you gently. You were completely blue. Thanks to our preparation classes, we knew this was normal. Then she placed you on Diana's belly and she was as moved as we were. Your other dad and I surrounded Diana and you while the medical team did the initial checks. We had agreed that I would cut the cord and do the second round of skin-to-skin contact after Diana's. I unbuttoned the shirt that another surrogacy daddy had advised us to wear to make this moment easier. Very good advice. And I welcomed you onto my chest. Your eyes were wide open and you were looking all around. That curiosity has never left you. We spent some lovely time together like that while your other dad was with Diana. I looked at you, snuggled against me, caught between pure bliss and amazement. How could you be so wonderful, so moving, so fragile and so powerful at the same time? So this was you, the one Kimberly and we had brought into being, whom Diana had created cell by cell, day by day, night by night, without pause for 9 months. You had tiny purple fingernails and absolutely enormous eyelashes, as if you'd gotten ready for your grand entrance, just like Diana, who had gotten semi-permanent eyelash extensions for your birth, because, as she told us, obviously I want to look gorgeous for this moment. Then your other dad came over and took you in his arms, and I took his place beside Diana. I'd say about an hour after your birth, the team returned for the second round of medical checks. The midwife showed us the enormous, imposing, impressive placenta, a fascinating biological matrix. I couldn't look at it for long because everything moves quickly in the hospital room, but I thought about it often after your birth. More often than I would have expected. I'll tell you about that later. Your other dad and I confirmed how we were going to name you and symbolically wrote it on the little whiteboard in the delivery room. It felt strange writing it down this time. Naming reality, naming you. There was something mystical about it, like writing magical runes. Diana then took you back for a while and talked to you, explaining who she was to you and why you were going to sleep in a different room from her after 9 months of being so close together. It was good that she did that, for you, for her, for us, for everyone listening around and beyond. We've talked a lot about this moment with your other dad and with Diana, the moment of the first separation. We are not naive. Of course it's a separation. Of course it was probably not easy to suddenly no longer feel the presence of the person who had been your only reference point, your world, your universe for so long. It would be stupid to act as if this moment didn't exist and wasn't filled with questions and doubts. In fact, anti-surrogacy people love talking about this moment of separation, much more than about reunion, and they say abandonment rather than separation. What's the difference between separation and abandonment? Why do I think and feel deep down that it cannot be abandonment given how we collectively handled everything? First, an important reminder. You cannot abandon what you don't have or what you are not. Diana played an enormously important role, as I have explained, and she has a very special place in our family, but she was never your parent. Not in her eyes, that is very clear to her, not in ours, and not in the state's eyes either. So Diana could not have abandoned you, despite what misinformed people might think, because she was never your mother and she had no parental rights or duties to abandon. However, of course there was this very special relationship you two built over 9 months, which would be profoundly transformed at birth. In an essay by Jean-Charles Bouchoux called Why Did You Abandon Me?, which your godmother introduced us to, the author defines abandonment as a withdrawal of love. But at your birth, as before and after, there was nothing like that. On the contrary, everyone loved you from their chosen place and role. We as your parents, Diana as your surrogate. As you just heard, when you were born, it was we, your two dads, who took care of you after a moment with Diana. We didn't know each other very well yet, but we welcomed you into our arms, skin to skin. We were there. And we took over from Diana, surrounding you with our love and good care. In her essay Rupture, philosopher Marin says, even when delivery goes perfectly, birth is a brutal passage. A new cocoon is needed to protect the baby from the rough, inhospitable world. It must be extended through gentle touch, the warmth of skin-to-skin contact, whispered reassuring words, the feeling of being constantly surrounded by presence, attention, and caring bodies. The uterine body must be replaced by another, a chimerical one made of voices, caresses and gentle pressure applied to the child." End quote. Well, we did exactly that, completely and entirely, it seems to me. And to be clear, the fact that you barely knew us at birth, that's not our fault. It took me a while to understand that. I felt a bit guilty about being far away during the pregnancy. Then one day I realized, wait, I'm not the one who stayed away. We don't choose the distance in surrogacy journeys. We endure it. It's imposed on us. It's because we're forbidden from doing this in our own country that we couldn't be more present. So yes, despite our visit and the voice recordings I mentioned in the previous episodes, we were probably unfamiliar to you at birth. And I regret that those who ban surrogacy don't realize this when they pontificate about the unborn child's psychological health. It's completely contradictory to worry about the risk of separation poorly experienced by the baby at birth, while simultaneously preventing us from being present during pregnancy, to begin forming bonds during intrauterine life. Beyond that, birth is separation in every case, for everyone. Some people even consider it is one of the most difficult experiences in life. So the question of separation isn't specific to surrogacy. Far from it. Absolutely every baby goes through it, and we recover, more or less. Perhaps what's specific about surrogacy birth is that at the moment of birth and normal separation, the baby transitions from intrauterine life with certain auditory, olfactory, and psychological reference points tied to one environment, that of the surrogate and her family, to extrauterine life that will be very different since the parents will take over and welcome the baby into their home, their environment. New reference points will form with them. From now on, it will be the sound of our voices, our scents, our vibrations, our energies. But as far as I know, this has never been shown to create psychological problems or anything else in studies. And Diana didn't disappear suddenly. There was a separation at birth, yes, but she continued being there for you in the role she had chosen for herself as your surrogate. As I record these words, we still contact each other monthly to exchange news. And so what if we didn't? For families where the surrogate is more distant after birth, that exists too. So what? Are we going to throw more demands on these women about what they should do, should not do, should do better, should do more? Haven't they already done enough to earn the rights if they wanted to step back? Then it's up to the parents to explain that these women exist, what their role was, etc. That seems perfectly acceptable to me, as long as secrecy and lies do not take over instead. Maybe we can leave these families, our families, alone for a bit and trust our ability to handle our own specificities and heal the many wounds inflicted by an exclusionary system that makes people believe only its norm can be good. We also want our children to be happy and fulfilled, and we put our hearts into the work. Maybe even more than others when we see the violence in heteropatriarchal families that are still so rarely questioned. So you see, your birth was both exceptional in many ways and also a very common moment on humanity's scale. One birth among millions that year. But for us, your birth, the long-awaited one that transformed our lives. After making sure Diana was well and also surrounded by support, we placed you in your little transparent plastic rolling bassinet and were taken to our room next door. Smaller, with one bed, a fold-out sofa, and between them, your first corner on Earth. The staff showed us how to call if we needed it, then withdrew, closing the door. Early evening, there we were, the three of us together, in each other's arms, with you in the middle. Your little eyes still wide open, exploring our faces and those first few square meters of unknown territory. For your first night, we nestled you into the wool cocoon your godmother had knitted during the pregnancy. I know my perspectives are slightly biased, but you were so adorable. Waves of emotion kept coming without pause. The curtain fell on that memorable December day with a happiness I'd never felt before. Maybe simply because I was no longer the same man. And with you beside us, everything would be now for the first time again. The first hug, the first bottle, the first diaper, the first night watch, the first sleep, but also the first time away, because I went to get takeout from a fast food place nearby. In line, everyone looked normal, when I knew we were no longer in the same world, that everything had changed. I wanted to hug people and tell them, I'm a dad, I'm a dad. And the list of firsts kept growing over the weeks and months, building a new world. The one you create and we create with you in the demiurgic and absolute power of the present moment. As for Diana, who was literally on the other side of the wall, she was able to rest and sleep through the night with her husband beside her. The day after delivery, she was scheduled to go home with her children, who were being watched by family. We thought it was quick for the hospital to suggest she go home the very next day, and we were not wrong. Before leaving, she came with her husband. We spent a long time together looking at you, discussing everything we'd been through together. Diana told us again how proud and filled with joys she was to have made this day possible. Then she took you in her arms and talked to you. She explained again who she was to you and why she was now going home to her own children. She told you she was going with peace of mind because she knew she was leaving you with two dads overflowing with love for you. Then she told you she couldn't wait to see you again later in the week. It was a very, very beautiful moment that happened in a completely silent room. Only Diana's voice, which you knew so well, echoed through the room. You listened attentively, I thought, as did we. Then she left, telling you, "See you very soon." And again, it was just the three of us. We left the hospital 2 days after your birth. The nurse on duty came to check that the car seat met standards. We had to convince her that European standards were not the same as American ones, but were still very safe. Then we drove off through a winter white landscape toward our host's house. Our home. Your first car ride. Your first snow. Your first house. In the next episode, I'll tell you about your first days, the administrative procedures in the USA, returning to Europe, and what happened after. So, until next time.